Hello, everybody, and welcome to your NAWBO Masterclass for September of 2024. So this month for our Masterclass, we're going to do something a little bit different as we're preparing for the fall retreat. As you know, is only 3 weeks from now in Paso Robles, and the fall retreat's really focused on storytelling and really getting your messaging out. And I thought, I don't want that to be the only person that we hear from. So we've got another expert with us. We have Rajiv Nation. Now he is actually, I'm sorry, Nathan is his last name. I keep trying to say Nation. Rajiv, I bet everybody does that because he's Rajiv Nation. Nathan.
Rajiv Nathan, aka Raj
Rajiv
Nation.
Nathan. Right.
Don't worry. This podcast I was on a few months back, it took him like 12 takes to get it right.
That's awesome. And now we actually found each other through NAWBO. He is the newest member of NAWBO Chicago, came to us through Goldman Sachs. And so that's pretty awesome. So he's actually a NAWBRO. So yay. I know, it's good. And he's many things besides being a NAWBRO. He is a rapper. He is an MMA ring announcer. He is a broadcaster. He is a yoga instructor. He is a Barack Obama impersonator. I know. I want my list of all the things that Linda does to be that interesting. I would love that. And so, but also what he does and what he does for a living, mostly, maybe, I'm guessing here, is he helps business owners really get their messaging right and in a really powerful way. So I think this is going to be a really great hour. It's going to be super interactive and interesting. And with that, Rajiv, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. So yeah, I'm excited to be here, everybody. This is a presentation that's very near and dear to my heart. I call it How to Not Suck at Pitching Your Startup. Titled by the fact that over the years, so many different entrepreneurs have come to me saying, hey, we really suck at telling our story. We need to figure this out. So what I would love everyone to do is just throw in the chat, like your location and then what your company is. And I'll, yeah, I know the yoga and MMA thing might be a little bit contradictory, but I don't fight in MMA, I just announce it. But I have learned through getting to know a lot of the fighters that it is quite a meditative act that they kind of take it as. And there's a whole like, it's weird, like they beat the crap out of each other, but they also have this utmost respect for one another at the same time. So it's interesting to like just be around that dichotomy. So this presentation, like I mentioned, is called How to Not Suck at Pitching Your Startup. It is focused on, and you can all see this, yeah? Okay, great. There's no like random, like I have like the Zoom box kind of covering it, but that's not like overlapping your screen, no? Okay. So what we're going to focus on today is specifically your elevator pitch, your 1-minute story, essentially how you respond when someone says, tell me about your company or what do you do? This presentation is broken out into 3 sections. Section 1 is the mindset and the mindset you need to have around pitching. Number 2, section 2 is the formulas and strategies to use to develop your 60-second or less elevator pitch. And then the final part is specifically, we're going to take those formulas and strategies, and I'm going to show you real examples using those formulas and strategies. Now, couple things to point out. The examples you'll see all kind of stem around like raising capital, which tends to be the goal of the companies that I work with. But if your goal is like revenue, all of this stuff still applies as well. So just take what you see and apply it to your use case because it works across all of these use cases. So that's the lay of the land. Another couple things just to keep in mind is this is going to be like pretty interactive. There'll be parts where I ask you to come off of mute. There will be parts where I'll ask you to use the chat. So just kind of like be at the ready to the best of your ability. And if you're able to have your camera on, that would be great. And it'll help me a lot as well. So cool. Well, if we are ready to begin, let's dive in with How to Not Suck at Pitching Your Startup with me, RajNATION, the founder of Startup Hypeman. So real quick, I want to just share the mission of the company because I think it's important and relevant to why we're doing this today. You've probably seen the stat that 9 out of 10 companies fail. You may have also seen that women and minority-owned companies get a staggeringly low amount of venture funding. To me, this is all ultimately an environment that's designed for failure. So my mission with this company is to use the power of story to make success inevitable and not the exception. And I think the more we can focus on really good communication, the more that becomes a reality. And so I like to say we can create a new reality where the 3 inevitables of life are, yes, we will all die, and yes, we will all pay taxes. Those are unavoidable, but in between those things, our companies will actually make it. And again, I think the more we focus on our message, our communication strategy, how we put ourselves out there through our story, the more that really does become true. I am a firm believer that every problem at the end of the day is ultimately a communication problem. So the more we can focus on and fix our communication, the more we can solve problems and be more successful. So while you came into a workshop today on pitching, you probably didn't know you also tuned into a workshop, or you probably also didn't know you tuned into a live interactive game show called Pitch Your Startup. That's right, it's Pitch Your Startup, the only live interactive game show where a room of NAWBO members are put in front of their peers, where they have to know other than, you guessed it, pitch their startup. So what I would like is one lucky volunteer who wants to come on down. I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. Your job is to pitch me. Who would like to be our lucky volunteer? Now, don't all jump up at once.
Oh, fine.
Who do we have here?
Oh,
Michelle. All right,
man.
everybody, come on down, Michelle.
Oh, God. It's
All
too
right,
funny.
Michelle. I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. When I say go, you are on. Ready, set, go.
Aero Athena, it is a cybersecurity tool for aviation. It's to keep all the hackers off the planes as much as possible. We are going for our venture capital, of course, and right now, looking at our market segment, we would have an 87% margin of return. That's all I got.
All right. Everybody give her a round of applause. And you came in, that was only about 21 seconds that you took. All right, stay with me here, Michelle. How do you feel right now?
Well, other than my heart racing, fine. I know I need to work on the actual pitch itself, but that's my elevator.
Yeah. What, tell me, if you were going to rank that on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank it?
Probably 2.
Okay, why a 2?
Because I've done it better.
All right.
I'm just not awake yet.
All right, everyone else, go ahead and drop in the chat where you would rank that pitch on a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh, God. I'm going with 2.
And we're all friends here.
Oh, yes, you got to love these ladies.
All right, we have a 4, 5, 4. All right, so we're hovering around like the 4 to 5 range. Yeah, I mean, I think I generally understood like the category that you're in. I think a lot was kind of left off the table. And I'm not walking away from that. Again, I kind of get it, but I'm not walking away from that being like, oh, like I need to learn more about that. Right. And that's really where you want to leave people, is that moment of them being like, wait, tell me more. So what we're going to do today is really like equip you with the tools so you can get them to that point and take it from, you know, what people are saying is roughly a 5 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Awesome.
And everyone's being very kind.
All right, you can go back on mute now, Michelle. Everyone, once again, give her a round of applause. Now, what I would like from everyone else is in the chat, I want you to write down why you did not volunteer yourself. We had probably 20 seconds there before Michelle said, okay, fine, I'll do it. Tell me why you chose not to go. All right, well, there's the walked in late. That's unavoidable. But a reason to be on time. Still developing it, eating. Anyone nervous?
Oh, we're out to lunch. Come back tomorrow.
Haven't had to give a pitch in so long and I need to work on it. Okay. So at a doctor's appointment. All right. Yeah. So some of those are unavoidable. But any of you like in that mode, like Kathy was like, I know I need to work on this. Haven't given one in a while, or maybe you don't like being put on the spot. Or maybe you just haven't refined it or thought about it. Those are some of the, like, if you're nodding your head, like those are some of the common sentiments that I often hear. And so, if that is you, I just want you to know, like, I have done this presentation for literally thousands of entrepreneurs, and that happens all the time. So I want you to know that if that's you, you're not alone. I also want to, that's me playing good cop. Now I'm going to play bad cop. You're not alone, but it's also not okay, because how you introduce yourself is everything, right? Your first 60 seconds determines your next 60 minutes with the person. And if you don't win them there, you don't have an opportunity to win them over, a longer meeting or a longer form interaction or whatever. Because, you can say like, oh, I know I need to work on this. And maybe you've been thinking about it, but you've been tabling it for later. What I promise you will not happen is you will not get an investor or a customer who walks up to you and is like, let's see here, and is like, oh, hey, Kathy, great to see you on this piece of sidewalk out here. Not right now, but 48 hours from now, I want to meet you back on this piece of sidewalk. And then I want to hear you pitch me. So just, get the jitters out, do what you need to do, work on it. I'm giving you this 48-hour heads up, same time, same place, 2 days from today, we'll see each other. And then I'm ready to hear your pitch, right? Your audience isn't necessarily waiting for you to be ready. They expect you to be ready. And what will happen is things like you will find yourself at a networking event where you're talking to people and you have to tell them what you do. You will be at a conference and you'll be walking the floor. Your potential buyers are there. And there's a ton of other people trying to also talk to those same people. And you've got to be able to stand out with something that compels them and is interesting to them. If you have a booth at a conference or a trade show, tons of people are going to be walking up to your booth and they're going to be walking up to learn about your company. And if that's if you're winging it every single time, why are you even paying the $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 for the booth in the first place, right? Or if you're saying something that you didn't necessarily like, maybe it's not winging it, but you don't love what you're saying, or you haven't thought through specifically, like if that's the right message you want to put out. Again, I think it's a waste of time, energy, effort, and money. So this is why all of this matters. You may find yourself in an actual elevator, right? Where someone asks you, what do you do? And you want to be able to walk, whatever floor you're both getting out on, you want to like continue the conversation as the door opens. These are all the reasons why it's so, so important, right? Your elevator pitch drives not just that minute you have with them. It really can and should drive your entire messaging strategy, because it all comes back to the elevator pitch, and you'll see why in a few minutes. So I want to share with you everything today, just with that as the baseline understanding, but also, so I said, like, you're not alone. And I want to share everything today through the lens of a couple other entrepreneurs. Their names are Kim and Joyce, and they are the co-founders of a company called Honest Game. Now, they took a version of this workshop a few years back. And then afterwards, they basically were like, okay, like our pitch is terrible. We need to figure this out. Here's their exact quotes that they said. Kim's quote is on top. Joyce's quote is on the bottom. And not only that, but they came up to me and they were like, Kim was like, here's how bad it is. She goes, Joyce and I can be in the same room and talk to two different people. Those two people can then go talk to each other and they would be convinced they just met two different companies. That's how out of sync we are as co-founders together. So that was the situation they were in, and they were about to onboard some new pilot customers, and they needed to get the name out there and all those things. So the goal was, how do we actually take them to that point where they're confusing people to the extent that they don't even that they think they're meeting separate companies, to not just getting it, but getting it, leaning into it, and really wanting to learn more because of it. So as we talk through everything today, I want to share it to you through the lens of their story and their journey. I'll take a step back for a moment, and I want to talk a little bit about my background, and this is going to expand on what Linda was saying at the beginning. All those things you heard about me all tie back to one central sort of driving force or reason or why. And my personal why, I believe everyone deserves a voice. And that is why I think I'm on this earth, is to help people express themselves and help them find their voice. And that comes out through my various endeavors. So like Linda mentioned, I am a rapper. I actually make hip hop music about startup life. So it's hip hop for entrepreneurs. If you go to Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, whatever, just type in RajNATION, just as you see it there, all one word. There's randomly another artist. If you put a space in between Raj and Nation, that's not me. My album that came out almost a year ago, as of next week, is called Goat to Market. And that's terminology we use as a company as well. Don't go to market, become the goat to market. I think you'll like it if you like hip hop. Even people who don't like hip hop tell me they like it. And founders from 40 or 45 countries around the world have been listening to it at this point. So pop it into your AirPods or listen to it in the car on your way home later. And let me know what you think. But that is me finding a way to bring more expression in the world and help people find their voice. Teaching yoga, I look at that as a way of helping people find their own inner expression. And the classes that I teach are always, or almost always, taught through the lens of telling some kind of story. I'll have a theme at the beginning. I'll use that theme to guide the poses that we do, and you'll come back to that theme mentally throughout class. On the ring announcing, TV broadcasting side of things with MMA, when I'm the person inside the cage who's like, and in the blue corner, my job is to give each of those fighters an identity for the live audience to buy into that fight. When I am doing the TV play-by-play, my job is to provide the viewing audience at home not just a narration of what's happening, but give them a reason to care about the fight, right? And you'll notice if you ever watch sports when it's on mute, it's like, it's really almost not even worth watching. Right? The announcers, the broadcasters are there to add a layer of narration, a layer of narrative storytelling to make it about more than just, is the ball going to go in the hoop, or is this fighter going to beat that fighter, right? So that's my job as a TV broadcaster. And then all of these things come together in running Startup Hypeman, which I've been doing for the last 7-8 years now. And I like to say chief pitch artist, but this is really about helping startups, helping founders, helping leaders, sales teams find their voice so their audience can recognize them, and not recognize them not as the best, but as the only. And so over the years, the focus on this kind of work has been cool. Have had, several different success stories over the years. We've worked with companies in really every continent except for Antarctica. But when inevitably the ice cliff falls off and the penguins have to jump, we'll catch them and maybe we'll tell their story too. And we've been able to partner with a lot of cool names across the way as well. So I'm telling you this to tell you, like, I deeply care about this stuff and I think this is important. If you still don't want to take my word for it, I want to share with you the words of a few other people on why this is important. The first person I'm going to show you, his name is Raj Bhargava. And I like to joke that he is the Tom Brady of entrepreneurship, because I would equivocate if you are building a high growth venture. The equivalent of winning a championship is either IPOing or getting acquired or exiting in some way. He is an 8-time founder, and he has had 3 or 4, maybe even 5 IPOs to his name. He's had a few acquisitions. He's still running his 8th company. He had one of the first 50 or 100 websites ever. His first company was responsible for getting brands like ESPN on the internet. Now they have their own streaming network now. He got them online in the first place. So he told me this when I got to interview him on my podcast years back. I think messaging is one of the most important things that startups can focus on, and it gets glossed over all the time. I think most companies fail at it, and that's probably why a lot of them actually fail overall. Now, to clarify, I did not lead the witness with this. I didn't say, what do you think about messaging? I said, what is an area that more startups need to focus on so they don't fail later? And this was his response. He also co-authored a really good book called The Startup Playbook, which I highly recommend everyone read. It's like an A to Z manual of building your company. And what I love is like chapter like 14 or something is on raising capital. And when you flip to it, it's like the first words are like, we're going to guess you went to this chapter first. If you did, please go back and read some of the other chapters first. So check that out. So if you don't want to take my word for it, please take his word for it. If you still don't want to take his word for it, take the words of this guy, Sean Amirati, who said, how you end up like a WordPress or a YouTube is you have your foundational elevator pitch extremely tight. It really is the core building block upon which you can build all the different communications that are important for your business. Sean is a professor of entrepreneurship at Carnegie Mellon. He is also the author of, he's an angel investor himself and the author of a book called The Science of Growth. This is another really good read. This one happens to exist on audiobook as well. Him and his Carnegie research team looked at nearly identical products and companies in nearly identical markets and studied what were the factors that led one to scale up and the other to stall out. For example, they compare side by side the story of YouTube versus another company called Rever. So in the mid 2000s, YouTube, hit the scene, and so did Rever. No one today has heard of Rever, and we all use YouTube every day. What did YouTube do well that Rever did not pull off? So the book is like 5 of those kinds of side-by-side comparisons. If you still don't want to take his word for it, take the words of this next person who is a VC here in Chicago, where I am. Her name is Abhinaya Kondaru. And she told me, I was having coffee with her, and I asked her, hey, what do you think is the most important trait for a founder to have? She said, storytelling is the #1 most important founder trait, because it's not just that it means you can pitch me. Good storytelling is a leading indicator of your ability to get customers and hire the right people, which will ultimately determine your success, right? So for those of you who have visions of raising capital, it's not just that you're pitching the investor, it's a leading indicator that you have that kind of like visionary ability behind you to rally a customer base, to rally the best hires possible and prove that what you're saying is actually going to come to fruition, right? That's why this matters so much. So can we all agree that your message, your pitch, your story is in fact important? Yeah? Okay. All right. So if that's the case, we're going to do a call and response here. Am I allowed to use a curse word, Linda? Okay. All right. So we're going to do a call and response. Bring yourself off of mute. And Kathy, to answer your question, does pitch apply to marketing messaging also? Yeah, I think your pitch should influence your marketing message. And I think a lot of people try and do it the other way around, and then their marketing is not as effective as a result. So,
excuse me, Raj, could you just define pitch really quick for me so I can make sure I'm thinking the same thing you're thinking?
Yeah. So think of there's a couple applications of it, but think of your pitch as the story you tell or the message you give, either as an introduction when someone asks, what do you do? Or the longer form might be like a pitch deck, like you have a presentation, right? Those are what a pitch are. You have to get across, your company's value prop, essentially. So if you're off mute, what we're going to do is call and response. I'm going to say some words. You're going to repeat it back to me. All right. So you ready? My product.
My product.
My product.
Does not mean shit.
Does not mean shit.
Without a compelling story.
Without a compelling story.
Beautiful. Let's do it all together as one group. 3, 2, 1. My product
doesn't mean shit
without a compelling story.
Compelling story.
About my company.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, you can go back on mute now. So if we can all confirm that this is what's important to us, let's talk about what we care about, right? Money. We are trying to grow our revenue. We are trying to raise capital. If that feels a little too on the nose, you can also extrapolate the concept of money to mean we are trying to create economic impact with our companies. We are trying to create jobs in the economy. We are trying to create generational wealth, right? These are all of the things. Now, we know that this stuff is in fact important and is a determinant of this. But there's a delta there, and it can be really tough to achieve this if talking about what you do leaves you tongue-tied, or you're not prepared, or you just don't have the right words, maybe you feel like sometimes it goes a little bit like this. You know what? I'm not sharing audio. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure the audio is sharing.
The dog, you put the food in the thing, and then the dog sees it, and food's it's dangling. Dog.
Wait, is the video actually playing? It is, yeah? Okay, good.
Dog looks at dang, tail wag, dog wagging the tail, whatever dog's name is. Dog's name is Claire. Claire, come in. Claire sees dog food, pick, Facebook, like.
Sizzle, strategy, sex, something.
This is the worst pitch I have ever seen.
Little bit of an exaggeration, but I know that's how it can feel a lot of times. Like, you know, you're almost like your tongue is swelling up in your throat, like you're just saying the same words over again and not making a whole lot of sense. So I think what we need to do is rethink what we're trying to accomplish with a pitch. So my question I have for you here, and you can either use the chat or you can come off mute and just say an answer. What is the purpose of a pitch?
To inspire.
To inspire. Good answer.
To influence action.
To influence action. Okay, let's see if we can get 1 or 2 more.
To leave the person wanting to know more about you, intrigued.
Leave the person wanting to know more about you and intrigued. Yeah. These are all really good answers. And these are all the answers that I was saying up until like the beginning of this year. And then I took a step back and I looked at all the pitches that we had developed over, like we've done like 300 something pitches at this point. And I looked at all of those and I kind of like, okay, what's really happening here? And then I also looked at like, what were some of the other things that I've observed in the market? And I think all of these answers you gave are all outputs of something bigger. And what I realized is that the true purpose or the goal of a pitch is actually to make your audience feel seen. Because if you do this, when your audience feels seen, they will trust you with their time, their energy, their information, and ultimately their money. When they feel seen, they find a piece of themselves in the story that you are telling. And if they cannot find themselves in that, then maybe the story is not worth telling. Or if it's an investor, you know, they're not necessarily your target customer per se, but they need to be able to recognize how you make your audience, how you make your customer feel seen. And what doesn't make people feel seen? Throwing out big, broad numbers, right? Like, making this like market size mistake. And when I say that is so many founders will think they're going to lure someone in if they open by saying, well, guess what? Machine learning is a $250 billion industry. And then they deliver that line as if people are supposed to respond like, oh my God, take my money now. Right. And that's not how people respond. Instead, it's more like this is how it comes off. I've been using a lot of Simpsons stuff. I didn't realize.
Did you know that disco record sales were up 400% for the year ending 1976? If these trends continue, hey!
Your fish are dead.
Yeah, I know. I can't get them out of there.
Right, you don't want to come off like that. And I think all of that comes into play if you start to conflate it with the wrong goal, right? Come back to, are you making your audience feel seen? I think I literally just found this quote or someone showed me this quote last week and I added it into this presentation from Mr. Rogers. I feel so strongly that deep and simple is far more essential than shallow and complex. Deep and simple, not shallow and complex. So what is it that's holding everyone back? Well, through doing this a lot, again, I didn't realize how many Simpsons things I put into this. So I established this concept that I call the messaging treadmill. The idea being that we all can agree that this stuff is important. And we all know it's something we need to work on, but it feels like in this effort, one step forward is one step backward, like we're on a treadmill. And the top reasons that have come through for that over the years, again, I've trained thousands of entrepreneurs on this. And the top 3 reasons that come out are, number one, for why this is difficult, is being too in the weeds of your own company to be able to take a step back and think about it with a fresh mind and for fresh eyes and fresh ears. Number 2 is being too technical. Maybe you're like the product developer, like you're the product person or the behind the scenes person, and you know that language really well, but then the more like friendly front facing language isn't so much your forte. Number 3 is being too caught up in the day to day. Like you're running a company, you've got 100 other things that you could be doing at any given point, and figure out the pitch is usually not at the top of that list. And I know how this goes because I've worked with enough entrepreneurs. It'll be like you could have a to-do list of 10 things and then like figure out pitch or message is number 10. You'll check off the first 9 things and then stare at that 10th one and then find 9 new things to put in front of it. So you don't have to work on it still, right? I know how that goes. And then if you take all of these reasons and you put them into a gift box and you tie up that gift box with a bow, the label on that bow would say entrepreneurship, which means we have this ongoing daily mental crisis where, we wake up, we pour our coffee in the morning around 6:30, 7 a.m. We make the mistake of checking email on our phone while pouring our coffee. And we see that, oh my gosh, the thing has been, the app has been down for the last 8 hours and nobody told me. And now you get another email from a bunch of angry customers who are like, what are you doing? I can't access my account. You're stealing from me. I'm going to blast you all over Reddit. And then an hour later, an investor you talked to last week was like, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to move in a different direction. This customer that you thought was really promising all of a sudden has a huge stall and you can't get a hold of them. By around 2 o'clock, you're like, maybe I should have listened to my family and stayed in that high paying salary job that had benefits. What was I thinking? 3 o'clock, something good happens. You're like, oh, maybe I can do this. 4 o'clock, something good happens. I got this. 5 o'clock, something bad happens. And we go home and we get up and we do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. And we are all founders, which means it's a 7-day-a-week job. Even if we're not actively working on it, our minds are still working on it, even on a Sunday morning. And so we're thinking about these things. And it can be really tough when you know all these things happening in the background to then have the job of saying, I need to talk about my company like it is the thing that everyone needs to be impressed by. When like the actual thing you're pitching hasn't even technically been built yet, right? These are the challenges that make it so tough to develop a strong pitch for ourselves. Now, by using the chat, just identify which number represents your situation, or if it's multiple of them, you can put a combination of numbers. And if it's something totally different, just put that down as well. Marianella, are you secretly spying on me? So use the chat and just let me know which situation or which combination of situations you feel represents you with using the numbers. Got a couple 3s in there, 2 caught up in the day-to-day. Number 1, number 3. Okay, so it looks like this is largely resonating. That's good, right? With coming back to Kim and Joyce, the co-founders of Honest Game, who I mentioned at the beginning, their situation was very much 1 and 2. Kim was too in the weeds. Joyce was too technical. And Kathy, to address your thing here, it seems like there are so many different people, scenarios that need so many different pitches, frequently revised as solutions and markets change. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Who your target audience is going to should modify what you're saying. And then that starts to build up as well, trying to remember so many different things. Remind me to address that later on because I don't have it as a slide, but I do want to come back to it. So what do we do about all of this? If this is where our head is at, we need to rethink and reshape our mindset. So lesson 1 amidst all of this, and this is what I taught to Kim and Joyce, and this is what I want to share with all of you today, is from this day forward, we need a mindset shift. Stop, at least as it pertains to how you message and pitch, stop thinking like an entrepreneur and instead think like an entertainer. Why an entertainer? Because the entertainer is concerned with one thing. How do I make my audience feel something? How do I move them? How do I get them buzzing with a certain kind of energy that they talk to their friends about when they leave this arena? If you think of your favorite musician, when you go and see them play live, what they don't do is say like, let's see here. What are some of the locations people are tuning in from? All right, okay, Bridget's in Cleveland. All right, Cleveland, how are we doing tonight? And you're like, yeah, okay, tonight we're gonna play every song in our entire catalog. That's 15 studio albums. It's about 14 songs per album. We're gonna play all of them. After we get through all of those, we then want to play some of the working drafts in our garage that aren't fine-tuned yet. They don't really sound good to you, but it's really important to us that you know that they exist because it's important to us. And then we're going to go through all that. After that, we want to spend a little bit of time giving you a window into our upcoming 6 to 9 month music roadmap. It's going to take 37 hours to get through it all. Are you with me? Even if I think only Taylor Swift could pull that off with her fans. Anyone else cannot. Right? You'll be like, what are you doing? I want to get home at some point. Play the hits already. Right? And that's what they do. They curate a set list based off of an emotion that they want to leave you with. And that's what you need to do. That's this mindset shift you need to make, right? Think like an entertainer. First off, it's about your audience, not about you. And you want to curate your quote unquote set list, your greatest hits, if you will, for your audience to have a particular emotion at the end of the day. Now, your greatest hits does not mean rattle off all of your accomplishments. I'll tell you later on what this really amounts to. But this is how I want you to start to think about, I don't need to tell them everything. I need to tell them the important things. A great example of this in action is one of my favorite artists, Jay-Z. About 21 years ago, he had a song called Moment of Clarity, where he compared his success at the time to some other underground rappers. At the time, they were more underground anyway. They went by the names of Talib Kweli and Common, who also went by the name Common Sense. And Jay-Z rapped, "I dumbed down for my audience and doubled my dollars. If skills sold, truth be told, I'd probably be lyrically Talib Kweli. Truthfully, I want to rhyme like Common Sense, but I did 5 mil and I ain't been rhyming like common sense." Effectively, what he is saying is, I have all the skills to be that like super deep, conscious, intricate rapper. And I could do that if I really wanted to go that route. But I realized if I wanted to break through to the mainstream, I had to meet my audience where they were. And he's basically saying like, these other rappers, they do that stuff. And you know what? It's fine. They can do that and they have their own certain amount of success. But if I wanted to break through the mainstream, I knew I had to change things up. And once I met my audience where they were, that's when things really exploded. I did 5 million sales of a single record, and I never looked back after that. And just in the last few years, Jay-Z became hip hop's first billionaire. So he kind of called his own shot 20 years prior to that. This is the mindset you want to have. And really think about this, right? Like, how do I break through to the mainstream of my audience's consciousness and their consideration? Another way you can look at this, just a quick graphic, is Super Mario. You have the small Mario as your potential customer. The flower is your product. When Mario eats the flower, he becomes the big Mario on fire, shooting the fireballs, killing the bad guys, and saving the day. You are not selling the flower. You are selling Mario saving the day. Right? You're selling the right side of the equation. It's all about, again, making your audience feel seen. So now let's start to shift into how do we actually bring this together in a pitch. Now, Michelle, I want to address your question real quick. You said, should we not talk about market size and revenue potential? I'm heading to VC land. I'm not saying don't talk about it. What I'm saying is it's not the lead message. And that's what a lot of founders going after VC think is the most important thing, is to start talking about the market size. Market size is part of the equation, but you don't differentiate off of market size. Everyone has a market and it's big. And essentially people think if they say the market is so big, people will start drooling. But like, particularly with VC, you wouldn't be talking to them if the market wasn't big. So it's a given. You just have to like meet that given amount. But don't build your whole strategy around the fact that it's a big market size. there was one other point I wanted to make with that, but I can't remember in this moment. If I remember, I'll come back to it. So as we think about elevator pitches, right? How do you introduce yourself? I want to share a really good example with you. And this is perhaps the best elevator pitch ever. And it is from an unlikely source, Will Smith and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Now, earlier I said you didn't know you walked into an interactive game show. You also didn't know you walked into a live sing-along concert. So I'd like you all to come off of mute once again, and we are going to collectively sing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme. There will be Zoom lags and all, and it'll be fine. So bring yourself off of mute, and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there, tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel-Air. Dun, 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 dun. In West Philadelphia, born and raised, on the playground is where I spend most of my days, chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool and all shooting some b-ball outside of my school when a couple of guys who were up to no good started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight and my mom got scared. She said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel-Air." All right. We'll end the scene there. And yeah, next time I do need the bouncing lyric ball.
Yes.
So it's a fun song and everything, but that's actually his elevator pitch for the show. He is telling you a story. Hey, I had this rough upbringing in Philadelphia, and if I had stayed there was a good chance I was going to get pulled into the wrong things. My mom recognized this early on, and she realized the only way I could fulfill my potential was if she sent me packing over to Bel-Air, California, where I would have the right family system, be able to tap into the right, or have access to the right education, and be able to tap into the right resources so that ultimately I could become the man she knew I was capable of becoming. That's what the introduction is saying, and that's why every episode of the show makes sense at baseline. Right? If you have never seen or heard the intro and you watch an episode, you'll spend the entire episode trying to figure out what's happening here. But because the intro, the elevator pitch is so strong, you have the context for every episode, whether it's episode 1 or 101. And that's what your elevator pitch should do. It should provide people the context so they don't, quote unquote, change the channel. And this is why I'm like, don't say everything up front. Say enough that makes them not want to change the channel. And this is what a lot of founders that I work with run into, is they want to say everything all at once. If you say everything, what does someone do with that information? And how do you expect them to remember all of it? Right? So your elevator pitch is the teaser to your show or your movie, if you will. Another reason I like to use this as an example is because they didn't get to like season 4 and say, you know what? People get it by now. We don't need to do the song anymore. Every episode starts with the song because they know it might be your 50th time watching it, but it's always someone else's first time. And that person needs to be brought up to speed. And it's worth having the message reinforced to you in order for that person to be brought up to speed. It's only going to mean more to you, and you're only just going to start singing along with it because you know it. Think about the real life application of that, especially this happens at conferences, and especially if you have a booth or an exhibit. You have all these people walking up to you, and after an hour, this like pitch fatigue develops where you're like, oh, I've said this so much already. Okay, so basically we do this and this. And you just start like phoning it in because you're personally exhausted. But this is not about you, this is about them. And you owe it to your audience to give it your best shot every single time. There's another Jay-Z lyric that I like. He says, I treat my first like my last and my last like my first, right? You want to treat it every time out there with the enthusiasm like it's the first time you've ever done it, and with the refinement like it's the last time, and care and dedication like it's the last time you're ever going to do it. That's why this is important. So with that template, let's look at the frameworks now to develop your elevator pitch. In order to develop your pitch, you have to understand your position in the market. To develop your position, you use a tool that I call the superhero positioning strategy. The idea is that You are a superhero. Because what do superheroes do? They help and they save people. What are you doing? You're helping and you're saving a subset of the market from something that they are experiencing. Now, when you think of, Batman's a good example of this, but and I like to use Batman because all he did was combine technology with access to capital to serve the public good. Sounds a little bit familiar. Technology, capital, serve the public good. And when you think of Batman, like, generally speaking, what is happening that makes him put on the cape to save the day? Right? Like, look at like what's happening on the slide. You have cars being crashed and there's explosions. Maybe the Joker blew up the hospital. Maybe someone's getting mugged in the street. These are all the reasons Batman comes in to save the day. Batman does not save Gotham on a sunny day. It's like 75 degrees out. People have their kids at the park. They got their dogs for a walk and they don't have a care in the world. You do not see Batman swoop in and be like, "Oh, I'm here to save you." Because if he did, do you know how the people would react? They'd be like, "What are you doing? Why are you wearing that weird cape? Stay the heck away from my children." They would get the exact opposite impression of Batman. He only saves Gotham when it needs saving, not on a sunny day. And yet, if you are a superhero, are you trying to save Gotham on a sunny day? Are you swooping in and talking all about what your great thing is? Or are you finding a reason to be there first? So in order for you, the superhero, to exist, you need to have a few things in place first. And here's the superhero positioning strategy. You must first have a person in distress. With a person in distress, you have a village on fire. When the village has been set on fire, you activate a superpower. And when your superpower is activated, the superhero comes in to save the day. Or in business speak, this is your target audience, the core problem or the problem set that they have, your approach to that, and ultimately your solution. The reason why this is important as an exercise is because it forces you to get on the side of your audience first before thinking about your product or your service. It puts you on their side first. You generate empathy. Empathy is the key to this whole thing. You want to make someone feel seen? Be empathic with them or empathize with them. Now, with Kim and Joyce and Honest Game, we did this exercise first. With everyone we work with, we do this exercise. We've got worksheet templates for it, but if you do it on your own, just take out a piece of paper. Like the lo-fi way to do it is take out a piece of paper, draw 4 columns, and just start bullet pointing your responses underneath each one of these. In this mode, don't worry about how it sounds. This is an internal reference document. And this is going to be really valuable, not just for creating your elevator pitch, but all of your messaging you create, you should come back to this. So you do a mental reset of what do we represent to our market. So from this, you now have the raw material, the organized raw material to be able to create your elevator pitch. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you what the elevator pitch formula is. I just want to make sure we're ready for that, though. So if you are ready to see that, in capital letters in the chat, please type the word pitch. Pitch, 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 pitch. The crowd is chanting for it. They're on their feet. They want to see it. All right, my friends, NAWBO. The most deadly, effective, and yet simple and easy to remember messaging framework you will ever come across. I call it the KPASA elevator pitch formula. For anyone here who knows any Spanish, you will know that que pasa in Spanish means what's up or what's happening. And that's essentially your job in your elevator pitch, is to say what's up. What's up with them and what's up with you. Or, as the acronym goes, PASA. Problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. Problem, approach, solution, action. I designed this formula several years back to be able to effectively get your message across in a minute or less in a way that is compelling, says enough without saying too much, and gets them interested and curious to learn more. Because at the end of the day, what does it do? It makes your audience feel seen. right? People will lean in when they feel seen. Or if it's an investor, they will lean in if they see you know how to make your core audience feel seen. What you're doing here is providing context and frame of reference for why you should exist. But again, you're most importantly leading with empathy. And you're using that as the entry point to then talk about what it is you actually do. What this is effectively doing is flipping the script, because you're probably used to leading with your offering, and you are now no longer leading with your offering. Instead, you are leading to it. So don't lead with your offering, lead to it. The difference between these two approaches is when you lead with your offering, imagine a game of tug of war. You are on the other side and you are trying to yank them over the middle line to your side. When you lead to your offering, you are like holding their hand and walking side by side over to your side of the field. Don't lead with your offering, lead to it. Now, so we've gotten through the formulas and the frameworks. Now I want to show you some actual examples using the KPASA method. And again, this is not just what you say in a minute. This can and should influence your entire messaging strategy, right? This should influence your pitch deck. It should influence your presentation to customers. It should influence your website copy, et cetera, et cetera. KPASA is fantastic homepage website copy. Like literally verbatim, you can use it. What you come up with that is your homepage copy. So first off, I want you to meet Christine. She is the founder of a company called Cyber Pop-Up. This is the situation she had, a cybersecurity platform. They needed to, differentiate, show people why they can trust them, and also talk about it from the flexibility and simplicity aspect. So we applied the KPASA model, and here's what the pitch became. Your server was hacked. You failed an audit. Your latest software update is vulnerable. Cybersecurity is serious business. It's also highly specialized. So why would you find an expert from the same place your marketing team gets their freelance graphic designers? Meanwhile, a traditional consulting firm takes you through a sales process that lasts months, but you needed someone for the job like yesterday. Get vetted specialists in a fraction of the time, at a time when you need it most with Cyber Pop-Up. Submit your project, get started as early as the same day. We manage the team and verify all your requirements are met so you get the highest quality delivery without the headaches. Cybersecurity isn't a matter of if, but when. So when it hits the fan, go to cyberpopup.com. Capital letter C in the chat if you have a baseline understanding of what this company does and how they might be valuable to their target audience of medium-sized businesses with cybersecurity issues. Good, good. And what did this lead to? Well, out of the gate, Christine won $20,000 in a pitch competition. It was a sidebar in an email she sent me. Hey, I won 20K, by the way. After that, she won another 5K. Then she won $100,000. The following weekend, she won another $100,000. So much so that she ended up getting media attention. Over the course of a year, she raised a little bit over $250,000 in capital purely from winning competitions. And all but like 5K of it was equity free. This is what having the right message can do and how much it can influence your strategy and your success moving forward. Then after this, she ended up raising a 7-figure seed round as well. And every time I see her, when I run into her, she will talk about how much going through that process first influenced everything that she did then and continues to do. Let me show you another company, and big ups to them. This is a company called Fan Food, and this is the founder, Carson Goodale. Now, I happen to have a before and after video of this. So similarly, earlier, Michelle, when I asked you to, or when you got on camera and you gave your pitch, I happened to do the same thing for Carson when I was in person. And I said, okay, go ahead and pitch me. And we were at the incubator that he was part of at the time. So here's what he had to say.
Alrighty, Fan Food is a mobile concession app that allows fans at live events to order concessions from their phone. They can choose to have it delivered to their seat, or they can pick it up through an express line. The value add for the end user, the fan, is that we're going to maximize the user experience. The value add for the venue is that we're going to increase the revenues and the per caps. That's it.
And funny, actually, Michelle, he ended it the same way you did, where at the end he was like, that's all I got. So we take it from that, and then we apply the KPASA model, and here's what it becomes.
Hey there.
Problem.
My name is Carson Goodale, CEO and co-founder of FanFood. Now, as a diehard sports fan, there's nothing more frustrating when you're at your team's game than missing a big play because you were stuck waiting in a line for a hot dog and beer. FanFood keeps you in the moment. Our mobile ordering app brings concessions directly to your seat, so you never have to miss the big play. Now, we are currently live in 5 venues in 3 different states, our 2 largest being a Major League Soccer venue and the Formula One Raceway down in Austin, Texas. Download our app today on the iOS and Android store.
Confidence, swagger, and the message makes sense. Capital letter F, you're not grading him an F, but F for FanFood. Capital letter F in the chat if you understand FanFood's value proposition. Great. And just so you can quickly see the message itself, here's what it looks like written out. And they had some good successes as well. Got a little seasick. Yeah, the only issue is I'm not a videographer and I didn't have like a camera stabilizer. And I walked backwards with the camera too fast. So then he kind of ran out of breath having to walk and talk at a pace that didn't make sense for him. But anyways, so they had some good successes. Right away, they won $1,000. Then they won another $25,000 through another competition. That also came with getting an afternoon strategy meeting from Damon from Shark Tank. They then raised a successful crowd fund. They raised around $3 million and they scaled up their customer base to most of the major event and sports leagues. Can we, Linda, can we go a couple minutes over time? I got just a couple slides left.
You can, if it doesn't hurt your feelings, if some people drop off.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Okay.
All right, sorry, Michelle. I'm sorry for the, sorry, my bad. But we'll get through the rest of this very quickly here. So let's come back to Kim and Joyce with Honest Game. So we remember them, remember the situation they were in and the challenges that they had. Well, we applied KPASA, and like I mentioned before, this really has multiple use cases. So they took the KPASA and they made it the script behind their video, their explainer video. So here's what this became. We start with the problem.
When you're a star high school student athlete, you compete tirelessly on the court and in the classroom to achieve your one dream of playing in college. Top schools recruit you and even offer you a scholarship. Then senior year hits and you find out that the class you took actually doesn't count. Your GPA is 0.25 off or your SAT score is 10 points too low. Even with the experts in your corner, school counselors, parents, and coaches, athletic eligibility rules can be confusing to navigate. And often by the time you find out you're ineligible, it's too late to catch up. Boom. Game over.
Approach.
Honest Game is the clear pathway for getting in. We automate the process so the student, the parent, the coach, the counselor, and the college all get real-time eligibility updates. With Honest Game, everyone knows what to do before it's too late.
I'll pause it there. They added some extra detail in for the purpose of the video. Capital letter H in the chat if you understand how Honest Game might be valuable to high school student athletes and the colleges trying to recruit them. Good, 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 good. So again, this is not only what you say in the introduction, this is what influences your pitch deck. It really, especially if you want to raise capital, it should influence your entire messaging strategy for investors. And also it has such a big impact on how you talk with customers. With Honest Game, they entered a competition that 221 other companies had applied to, and they were selected for the top 20 out of the 221 companies. What's crazy is they actually didn't even have revenue yet. They were about to onboard 7 unpaid pilot customers. Those top 20 got to pitch, and that was whittled down to a top 5. Honest Game made it into the top 5. The top 5 got to, I should have mentioned, the competition was sponsored by the Chicago Bulls in partnership with an investment group called Loud Capital. And they got to pitch on center court at the United Center where the Bulls play to the Bulls executives, former players, and the Loud Capital team. And out of those top 5, they went up against other companies that were already doing multiple millions of dollars of annual revenue. The next night at the Bulls game, during the first time out of the game, the winner was announced, and guess what? Who got to hold the big check? But Kim and Joyce from Honest Game, the same 2 people who just a few months prior were confusing people with their pitch, were now getting rewarded for it, literally. They got a $50,000 investment from Loud Capital. This then springboarded them to a oversubscribed seed round. It was a little bit over $2 million. Last I checked in with them, they are now doing 7-figure annual revenue. And they just announced last week, they're based out of Chicago. They officially became the vendor of record for the IHSA, which is the Illinois High School Athletic Association. So for all of high school sports is under the government of the IHSA, and they are now the platform of record for the IHSA. So a huge, just massive trajectory growth for them. And it comes back to making sure, obviously the product has to be good. People have to want to use it, but how you communicate that product to people is what gets it in their hands. So I want to leave you with one final quick message here. And that is that, you have a choice moving forward. You can continue to table this work and just be like, I'll do it later. Or you can prioritize it. You can ramp up the priority of it, especially if this is, if you've got a vision to raise investor capital or do things similar to that, if you're trying to expand your customer base, really prioritize this. So much of your success comes back to how people understand what it is that your offering is. And if you cannot win them in the first 60 seconds, you have such a hard time trying to do it in 60 minutes. So at the end of the day, I mentioned this earlier, I want you all to take this information and don't try to be better than the others out there. Don't try to be the best of the people that are out there. Be the only. Because if you try to be the best, you will forever be in a dogfight with everyone else in the market trying to stake your claim to differentiation. If you can establish yourself as the only, you will set the terms for the market. You will establish a new category, and you will get people coming to you because they see you provide something new and different, and they want to be part of that new and different. Now, in closing, this is my contact information. The bottom right link is an online founder community that we have called Goat to Market Club. There's some resources in there. We do a weekly study hall on Tuesdays that's open to anyone. The QR code in the top right, if you want to work with my team and I on this, we do this stuff literally every week. We've got a very refined process for it, for if you're raising capital, or if you want to expand your sales, we've got a separate refined process for that. So that QR code will just take you directly to my calendar page. And then there are some follow-up resources I can send as well. I just need your permission, or I just need your email address. So you can just give that to Linda and say there's permission to recontact you if you want to grab those things. If you've got any final questions, I can hang around. I know I've taken you for an extra 7 minutes, so I apologize for that. But if you do have any final questions, just let me know.